Has Will Howard done enough to silence the doubters?
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to a Tuesday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day here on Tuesday, September 17th in the year 2024. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast, and today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Will Howard's decision to transfer to Ohio State was a big one. The Buckeyes wanted and needed a different quarterback than what they had last year, and they got that in Will Howard. Ryan Day wanted to run the ball more and have him more mobile quarterback. Will Howard checks that box. He has experience. He checks that box. He's won a conference championship game. He checks that box as well. So he checks a lot of boxes that Ohio State wanted a future quarterback or quarterback this year to check. However, through 2 games so far, Will Howard has done some really good things and some great things in those 2 games. There are people out there that were doubting him at the beginning of the season, and maybe right now through 2 games, they're still doubting him. And I got this question in my head. Has Will Howard done enough to silence the doubters? And the answer is no. And it's not because he hasn't played well. We all see how he's played. He's done some good things when he's been on the football field. It's just the competition has not been good enough to say, oh, those that were doubting him might still have doubts, because doing that against Akron and Western Michigan doesn't mean the same thing as doing it against Michigan State and Iowa and Oregon, with the first 3 Big Ten teams on Ohio State's schedule. Of course, Oregon being the top of the list, and you got Iowa, but Iowa's defense is not anything to laugh at. It's one of the best defenses generally year in and year out in the country. And Michigan State, even though it's not a top-tier team in the conference, they're still better than Marshall, Akron, and Western Michigan. So I think when you're doubting Will Howard, or if you are in the category of people that is doubting Will Howard still, y'all might be waiting to see what he does against Michigan State, against Iowa, before saying, oh, I have seen everything I need to see. Now, maybe you're someone that needs to see it against Oregon, or maybe you're waiting for game number 12 and to see it against Michigan. Whatever side of the fence you're on, many of the doubters that are still out there, their doubt is going to go away once Big Ten play begins. The unfortunate thing for those that are doubting is they're still going to doubt this weekend, because Marshall is not a Big Ten team. They're in the Sun Belt. They're in a Group of 5 school. So that kind of is going to waver how they're going to view Will Howard so far. The positive thing is, I know it's only through 2 games, but Will Howard's numbers aren't bad so far this year. Thrown 4 passing touchdowns, 520 passing yards so far. Has not thrown an interception yet this season. Here's what I like. I know it's only through 2 games, but he raised his completion percentage from game number 1 to game number 2. I believe at the game number 1, he's about a 60 or 61% completion percentage, which is right on his average for his career. He's a 59% passer, which is not great at all. But right now, 64.8% for the season, only throwing 54 passes. That is something that is really good for Will Howard, is for him to build more confidence going throughout the season. And if you're a doubter right now, you might be an Ohio State fan saying everything is good but the quarterback. And if you're in that camp is very, very small. It's the minority in this conversation. If you want to say it's the majority, go on social media, go to the barbershop, go anywhere and talk about a quarterback at Ohio State and say, what do you think about Will Howard? And I guarantee if you're in a group of Ohio State fans or just college football fans, they're not going to say a lot of bad things about Will Howard. It's because he is not J.T. Barrett. He is not Justin Fields. He is not Dwayne Haskins or Stroud. And that's okay. Like, who he is who he is, and that's good enough for Ohio State this year. That's good enough to lead them to win the conference championship. I do believe that. That's good enough to make them make a deep playoff run and to continue in a national championship. He is good enough to do all of those things. Even with his limitations throwing the ball, even with him being newer to Columbus, he's going to have limitations. That is not going to be a problem because he is good enough. Him being good enough is mainly because the guys around him make his job so easy. From Quinshawn Judkins to Travion Henderson to Jeremiah Smith and Ibuka, the rest of the guys at the skill positions and the offensive line that I do believe will be continue to improve game after game after game. They make Will Howard's job so much easier than it could be. And if I'm Will Howard, thinking about this game coming up against Marshall, one thing I'm going to be looking forward to seeing is, do the Buckeyes start fast once again? Now, this is not really a Will Howard thing. Will Howard wants to start fast and score on the first drive. That's cool. But the Buckeyes offense as a whole, do they start fast? And how does Will Howard look against a Marshall squad that is better than Western Michigan and Akron? But it is no Michigan State. It is no Iowa. It is no Oregon. It is no Indiana, who's playing way better than anybody thought they would this year. It is not fill in the blank Big Ten school. It's not that. And so I'm curious to see how comfortable Will Howard looks. Does he still look comfortable? Is it more of what we saw from game number one, a little rust early, a little slow start for the offense, an offense that wasn't in sync, that wasn't capitalizing on in third down situations, punting the ball a couple times, and then all of a sudden, bam, the flip is switched and they can't be stopped. I don't know. I have no idea. I do believe, though, this is what my gut is telling me. My gut is telling me the offense will be more of what we saw against Western Michigan, not against Akron, starting fast, moving the ball quickly. Will Howard can actually have some hiccups in that moment, and the offense still be scoring early. But I don't think he's going to. I think he has a wherewithal to know and to understand the magnitude of every Ohio State game, the magnitude of what it means to be a Buckeye. Now, you don't truly understand it until you're on the field. And this is a little bit different when you go on the road or when you begin Big Ten play because it's different. Big Ten ball is physical, very physical. Very disciplined are the teams that are at the top. Now, you may say, Jess, every conference. Look at Iowa. One of the most fundamentally disciplined defenses every single year. Offense is a different story, but defensively, they are fundamentally sound every single week. Oregon played a whole lot better against Oregon State, and I think they're going to be playing a whole lot better when the Buckeyes come to town on October 12th. Circle the date if you haven't already. Circle the date. We're going to talk about that game later on in this show with circle that day, October 12th. It's a primetime game on NBC. Noah Eagle, Todd Blackledge will be on the call. I'm excited to have that duo on the broadcast of that game. I'm also excited about what Will Howard will do this weekend against Marshall. Come out, just do your job. Will Howard doesn't have to score a touchdown that day, or I think he will. But if he didn't score a touchdown and the Buckeyes offense was fluid and flowing, great. Here's what I think he will. You see who the receivers are? You see how good those guys can be? They're going to make his job easy. Do I think it'll be another RPO where you fake the handoff? I forget who the back was. And you got Carnell Tate over in the flat to your right, or you got Jeremiah Smith over the middle. Throw the ball to Jeremiah Smith in the middle of three guys, and all of a sudden he goes 70 yards to pay dirt. I don't know if that's going to be the play. But I think Will Howard can replicate that play once again this weekend when the Buckeyes return to the field. One thing we'll see when the Buckeyes return to the field, or when the Buckeyes begin Big Ten play, is it will not be a day game. We got a little insight and an update on when Ohio State and Michigan State will kick off in a couple weeks. This episode is brought to you by Roy. Hey, Buckeye fans, have you heard about Roy? It stands for Return on You, and it's a new platform that lets you, the fans, get involved in NIL like never before by making contributions directly to your favorite athletes. By supporting players directly, you can help shape rosters, retain talent, and keep your favorite athletes out of the transfer portal. As you all know, NIL has changed the game for athletes. Roy changes the NIL game for fans. Roy allows fans to directly back their favorite college athletes. With Roy, fans can play a key role in shaping the future of their favorite teams, while athletes maximize their name, image, and likeness potential. By using Roy, fans not only support athletes financially, but also become part of their name, image, likeness journey, helping them succeed both on and off the field. Download Roy for iOS or Android, and enter referral code Locked On, and you'll automatically be entered into a sweepstakes to win $5,000 cash. Visit joinroy.com for additional details. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited. Get the Roy app for iOS or Android and start making an impact on your favorite team. Use referral code Locked On for an opportunity to win $5,000 cash. Visit joinroy.com for more details. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited. Get off the sidelines and get into the NIL game with Roy. This episode is brought to you by Billiards Plus. Billiards Plus has the best selection of pool tables, game tables, shuffleboard tables, and more. And the best service is Central Ohio. And guys, check this out. Billiards Plus has grills that have up to 30-year warranties. Everything you need for in-home and even backyard entertainment is at Billiards Plus. They are family-owned and operated. And when you talk to the staff at Billiards Plus, you know you're talking to an expert who won't steer you wrong. No matter the season, Billiards Plus has you covered for all your indoor and outdoor entertainment needs. Kenny, Sarah, and the whole staff will always go above and beyond to give you the best customer service in the industry. Billiards Plus. Visit their showroom on Dublin Central Drive in Dublin. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen every day. The Buckeyes and the Spartans have played numerous games in prime time, and the next time the two teams battle it out on the gridiron, that game will be in prime time as well. The Buckeyes and the Spartans will both open up Big Ten play. Ohio State will open up Big Ten play. Michigan State's already played a conference game. That will be September 28th in East Lansing at 7 p.m. Eastern on Peacock. That's correct. A streaming-only game, part of the new media rights deal that the Big Ten signed with CBS and NBC and Fox, and the Big Ten Network was in there as well. Of course, part of the NBC deal was, hey, you got to broadcast your games on the Peacock, and that's exactly what's happening this weekend. Ohio State and Michigan State. It's going to be a game. It's going to be a fun one. The Buckeyes should roll over Michigan State. It's not a bad team, and I don't know if Ohio State will be able to hold the Spartans to 3 points. However, it is possible because of how good Ohio State's defense is this year. I mentioned 3 points. That's how many points Michigan State scored last year when the two teams battled it out in Columbus. The final score was 38-3. And that was one of them games where I'm thinking, this game is just over. Michigan State couldn't do anything. Of course, that was a really bad Michigan State team. This year's team should be better, but the Buckeyes should be able to handle them. One of the things I love about this is that you're playing another game in prime time. So maybe you have a family, or maybe you're just someone that's trying to figure out something. Maybe you have some plans, some fall plans during the day. And the Buckeye football is one of those things where, well, if it's at night, I can do this at 12 or 1 or 2. Well, if it's at noon, I can do this in the evening. Well, sometimes those evening plans go away because you might be tired around 6 o'clock, might not want to go anywhere. Well, at 12 or 1, you got a lot of energy. And y'all are going to save some of that energy for the Buckeye game in the evening. So if you are like me, trust me, my wife and I have already talked about going to a local festival before that game that evening. So trust me, we don't have some caffeine in there throughout the day, so your boy is energized and has some adrenaline pumping. So at the postcast after the game, it's not Jay just trying to crawl right through that thing because it's Buckeye football. It all gives us a little juice every now and then. This game, though, on the Peacock, this allows NBC to have the biggest brand in the conference on a streaming service, where this game could possibly bring the biggest number for any streamed football game that NBC has this year, which is huge for the NBC. It's also great for Ohio State because it's just saying, hey, it doesn't matter if we're on the Big Ten Network or if we're on the Peacock or if we're on ESPN. We are going to bring all the numbers every single week. Also, I just like it. I used to be a guy of like noon games. I used to like 3:30 games. Like when I heard the CBS had the 3:30 window for the Big Ten, I'm like, oh, great, man. We get Brad Nestor at 3:30. That's cool. That's great. No, and then I'm like, okay, sometimes in prime time. lot of times right now, I am a noon kickoff kind of guy. I still am a person that for certain games, we'll get to that here in a second, but for certain games, they deserve to be in prime time no matter what. I absolutely wish that if Ohio State and Michigan move the date of the game from Thanksgiving weekend, so let's just say they make a Halloween weekend, the final weekend in October, yes, that messes up Ohio State, Penn State, but with the Big Ten not really having primetime games or night games in November, which is one of those rules that needs to just get thrown out the window, if you move it to the last weekend in October, that could be a primetime game every single weekend. Imagine NBC or Fox saying, look, hey, Fox, you can have the game, but it got to be at night. It got to be under lights. It's just that big. Fox may say, well, we got a big news. Hey, look, y'all want us on your network. Well, we can draft you. Of course you can. And we have a contract that this game has to be at night. Now, I don't know if the schools and the broadcast companies can actually do that, but trust me, I think that game should be at night every single year. The Saturday after Thanksgiving, or it could be week one matchup. I don't care. I think that game deserves to be in prime time every single time. Ohio State, Penn State deserves to be in prime time every single time they play. I think it was last year Ohio State went to Camp Randall and it was a night game, and I'm thinking, man, this game could have been at noon. It was also a snooze fest, but that game could have been at noon. Why put this at night? Now, I know networks want to put Ohio State at night for various reasons, especially if you're NBC. If you can get Ohio State on your network, you want to, which is why they got the Peacock this weekend, putting it in the evening. I completely understand the behind-the-scenes aspect of this game being a night game. But I do think there are certain games that Ohio State plays that should always be at night. For instance, going forward in a couple of years, actually next year. I believe next year it's Ohio State and Texas start their first game of their home-and-home series. Put that game at night. I think it's a season opener. I think I heard that recently. I haven't fact-checked it. But I think I heard that game is a season opener next year. Put Ohio State and Texas at night. Y'all put Ohio State and Notre Dame at night. The TV draft did it. Put Ohio State and Texas in the evening. And honestly, it's because I really like Kirk Herbstreit calling games. I know there's no way for ABC to get this game. I understand the contractual obligations that they have and the Big Ten has with their own partners. But that game, to me, deserves to be on. And Ohio State's home next year, so that game will not be on the ABC. The year after, hey, look, make it College Game Day, go down to Austin, Texas, and put that game in primetime because it deserves it. Certain games deserve the primetime window. Ohio State and Michigan State just doesn't fit the description. Not now. Not now. Maybe down the road it does, but it does not right now. The one outcome I don't want this year is what we got in the 2015 game. The Spartans beat the Buckeyes 17-14. A good Michigan State team, though. Very good Michigan State team. I believe they won the conference that year, too. But one thing I don't want is for this to be a close game. Ohio State's more talented. The coaches got in the way that day, and Ezekiel Elliott after the game showed everybody why he was so furious with the way that things went that day, not just with the loss, but the way the play calls and the offense was going. It was just really clunky and just awkward, and I was very confused by the game. No, we don't want no kicker doing no windmill celebration at the end of this game this year. Absolutely not, because the game shouldn't be close. It shouldn't be close. Ohio State should score 40-plus points against Michigan State. Why? Because they're that good. Ohio State is good enough to beat Oregon. In the offseason, I had the Ducks beating the Buckeyes on October 12th. Have I seen enough from Ohio State to change my tune? I'll tell you next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, mainly because it's America's #1 sports book. But we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sports book. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen every day. Ohio State and Oregon battle it out on October 12th in prime time. The game is going to be on, I believe, NBC. And I can't wait. I've been looking forward to that matchup for a long time. Had it circled on the calendar, just like many of you did. And during the offseason, I came on the show and said, I think Oregon is going to win the game. I did not look at the YouTube comments after that episode, or after I made that comment. And I'm sure that if I did, there'd be a lot of Ohio State fans saying, whoa, Jay, have you lost your mind? One, I am an Ohio State fan. Two, Buckeyes are really good. Three, is Oregon really that dude of a team to beat Ohio State? Are they really good enough? And so far this year, I have my own thoughts, but I hadn't really thought about displaying them in this way until I went to the YouTube today, this morning, or after Monday's show aired, and Jermaine Smith 6315 on YouTube, he asked a question, and I said, hey, this is a question that we'll tackle on the show this week. And I decided to do it the day after he asked the question. Here was his question. My question is to Jay, do you think OSU will still lose to Oregon this year? And will Georgia, supposedly with the best QB in college, win the Natty? And so I'm going to tackle the first thing first and then tackle the Georgia topic second. I think after the 13-12 narrow win over Kentucky, that's a valid question to ask. I do still have Ohio State losing to Oregon. However, I do think the game is going to be – I am closer to changing my tune than I thought it would be at this point of the season. The one thing I am waiting to see before I change how my prediction is for that game is how Ohio State plays against Michigan State and Iowa. Because I want to see them play against better competition. I think they'll be fine. I think they'll roll Michigan State. I think they'll be sound against Iowa. Trust me, I think they'll win both of those games. But I'm waiting to see how Ohio State plays against Michigan State and against Iowa before deciding to change my tune about if I think Ohio State will beat Oregon. One, Autzen Stadium is a very tough place to play. I have never been there for a game, never been to Oregon at all in my lifetime. But everything I hear, everything I read, everything I see, every time I watch a game, it just screams Autzen Stadium is a tough place to play. I think that's a great narrative and a general narrative, normal narrative around college football. The thing that I'm kind of looking forward to, though, is not so much the defense or the offense overall, the players. It's just really a few. Does the offensive line continue to improve? And how does Will Howard look against Big Ten teams? That's really it. Those are my only questions about the team right now before changing my tune against when the Buckeyes play Oregon on October 12th. Yeah, they got some issues, a little bit on special teams. I could see Ohio State changing some things with the kick return, moving Jaden Ballard out, putting somebody else deep. I think Brandon Ennis is going to stay back up on return. Could we see Caleb Downs return a punt? That's very possible. But ultimately, right now, I think the questions mainly for that game, even with the things going on with kick return, mainly for that game, I am watching if the O-line continues to improve, and Will Howard, how does he play against Big Ten opponents? Because if he is a below 60% passer in those two games, I'm a little nervous. I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, I'm already nervous about the game anyway. That's a tough place to play. If Ohio State loses at Autzen Stadium, that doesn't mean they're not going to win the conference, beat Michigan, or win the Natty. That does not eliminate any of those things from actually happening. But what it does do, though, it does open the eyes to people that are saying, as great as Ohio State is right now, they still have more things to work on. Now, the other question, the second part of this, will Georgia, supposedly with the best QB in college, win the Natty? And I still believe Georgia is going to win the national championship in any given season. You look back over the history of college football, the team that might be the favorite early in the season to win the national championship, they generally will have an issue. They generally will have a team that almost trips them up. Or maybe they lose to Ohio State in 2014, lost to Virginia Tech in week number 2, and I don't remember the world falling in. I don't remember it going crazy. Ohio State went on to smack Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship game, went on to beat Alabama, and then beat Oregon in the national championship. And so in 2014, that Virginia Tech loss, yeah, Ohio State at the end of the year had to really do things right and once shut out Wisconsin. That really helped them leapfrog a couple teams to get into the playoff. But Ohio State handled their business the rest of the way and got the favor of some people in the committee room. Well, right now with Georgia, I don't think they've done enough to change my mind or many people's minds about them winning the national championship. It is too early in the season to change those predictions for me. And I think many analysts out there will say the same thing. It's just too early. We have not seen enough ball to change predictions about something happening months from now. Now, unless you're Florida State. Like if you're saying Florida State was going to win the ACC, they're out of it. They're absolutely out of it. Mike Norvell is not in a great spot right now. Not as bad as Billy Napier, but he's not in a good spot right now. DJU, I know some people think you was the right guy. Yo, people are still seeing that you are still that quarterback that struggles in the ways you have struggled for the past few years. That's just how football is. For Georgia, though, I do think Georgia will not have issues like they had against Kentucky, and they got to play Alabama in a couple weeks. That's one of them games where you better get your popcorn ready. Trust me. Get your popcorn ready. Because one thing we know about Alabama, they can travel. They just went to Wisconsin to smack the Badgers. Jalen Milroe was playing very well. They are loaded with talent. Kalen DeBoer is a phenomenal coach, and they're going to have a phenomenal game plan, a great game plan. I think they even host Georgia. I don't know that for sure, so don't quote me on that. But I think they host Georgia in this game. Look, it doesn't matter if the game's at Tuscaloosa or Athens. It's going to be a hostile environment, and I can't wait. If I change my tune about Georgia winning the national championship, it might be because of something Ohio State is currently doing or is doing all season long, or Texas is doing all season long. I don't think Ole Miss will be in the conversation to say that I'm going to change and move Georgia out of the number one spot of the team I'm picking to win the Natty and put somebody else there. I don't think that. I do think, though, if Ohio State keeps improving like they have, like they did between game one and game number two, it's a very small sample size. But if they continue doing that, y'all might hear me come on this show and say, I know my preseason pick was Georgia, but I got to put the Buckeyes in that spot. Right here, y'all, on the Tuesday. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen of the day. Now go check out the Locked On College Football Podcast, from NIL deals to never-ending conference realignment rumors. Spencer McLaughlin gets you ready for an exciting season on the gridiron. Find Locked On College Football on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can follow me on Twitter at JSteven07. Follow the show on Twitter at LO Buckeyes. Follow the show on the Instagram at Locked On Buckeyes. So many places to follow me, the show, to get all your Buckeye fix every single day. Right here on a Tuesday. We'll see you next time.